I officially call this work session to order. The time is 6:04 p.m., Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. I will now take attendance via roll call to establish a quorum. Councilperson Hagman,
Here.
Councilperson Stork,
Here.
Councilperson Coyle,
Here.
Councilperson Chenault,
Here.
Councilperson Webb,
Here.
Councilperson Voigt,
Here.
and Councilperson Davis. We have a complete group of people here tonight, and we do have a quorum. Our first order of business is my swearing in. Where do you want me, Miss Susan? That would be fine.
Don't have to repeat after me because it's repeated. I, Tina Gamble, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me as the mayor of the town of Bowling Green for a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2028, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
I do, so help me God. Councilperson Chenault, would you come forward to be sworn in? Would you like to be sworn in on the Bible?
I, John Chenault Jr., do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Bowling Green Town Council for a 4-year term commencing January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2028, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Councilperson Coyle, would you like to be sworn?
We're gonna get backwards. I, Valerie G. Coyle, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Bowling Green Town Council for a 4-year term commencing January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2028, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
My grandmother's.
That's my hand. Thank you.
Stephens,
Yes, I, David Stork, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Bowling Green Town Council for a 4-year term commencing January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2028, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Councilman Boyd.
I, Jack A. Wolf, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Bowling Green Town Council for a 4-year term commencing January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2028, according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Second item on the agenda is the meeting schedule for town council for 2025. Have you all had a chance to look at it? Don't answer at once. Are there any changes that anyone would like to make to this before I ask for a motion?
Did anyone want to start earlier? Like maybe 5:30 instead of having a 7 o'clock meeting, start at maybe 6 o'clock?
We
Just
used to
throwing it
start at
out
5
there.
before, didn't we? When I first was, when
We
you guys
did.
first basically appointed me that first 4 months, we were starting at 5. Meetings started at 6, and then
Right.
That was it. Then we went to 6 to
I'm
7.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's not whether
I mean,
2-hour work session.
I would be in favor of meeting earlier. I mean, that's fine with me.
So do a 5 to 6 work session, 6 to
I mean,
regular.
I
How
think
about-
that's cool. I mean,
How about staff? Yeah, how's that work for you?
yeah, I mean, that's,
All right. I know y'all like to stay late.
Yeah. I would agree. And I think also to kind of help frame this throughout the year, there's been some conversations around whether or not there needed to be a monthly work session. I think before maybe they were bi-monthly or quarterly. So if that was also a desire, that's not necessarily something that we have to do every meeting, unless the item or some items arise.
I would like to talk about that. I mean, maybe have it as an option, but if we don't have enough for a work session, just not have it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, the way that the planning commission used to do it is we would have the main meeting first, and if there was work to do, then we would go into a work session after the regular meeting. I wouldn't, I think we should maybe see how many of us could make whatever time what we decide on. I could make whenever, but I don't know how all of our work schedules are. But yeah, 6 o'clock, I could definitely see us doing 5:30. Maybe ask staff like if 5 or 5:30 would be better for them to wrap up, any regular business.
And so, I mean, even further back in the day, we didn't have a work session. That was added at some point. So maybe to have it in a framework, but not necessarily have to have it. I mean, like tonight, we could have knocked out these two things at the beginning, really, of the main meeting. Well, what if I make a motion that we approve the dates? That we say we could tentatively have a work session from 5 to 6. And the regular council meeting begin at 6, but the work session is not mandated unless we actually have something that needs some grinding out.
Is there a reason that you want the work session before instead of after? Because setting a block of time for the work session, you're right, you never know if it's going to take longer or shorter, and that's what we found out at Planning Commission. And if we did it after the meeting, then it didn't matter the time. So we could possibly start council meeting at 5 or 5:30,
And
then
if we
do the-
and if we needed to have a work session, yeah,
Yes.
because I mean, I'm fine with that too. But the thing was, in the old days, we didn't have a work session every meeting because we had those committees. And I'm not for bringing the committees back. Don't get me wrong, but we had those committees that did work all during the month, prior to the meeting. So I'm fine with amending my motion that we put the work session afterwards. Have the meeting begin at 5.
at 5.
If we have to have a work session, it would be immediately following.
Okay, so I have a motion to start the council meetings at 5 o'clock. And if we need a work session following the council meeting, then we can commence with that. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Councilman Hagman. Is there any more discussion?
Let me ask a quick procedural question for that. In posting those potential work sessions, are we going to attach them to the regular agenda as needed, or are we going to basically be advertising those as a separate meeting following? Because if we advertise them as separate meetings following, if we then don't have them, we have to make motions to cancel them and everything. We've done it both ways at Planning Commission. Sometimes, like, the work session was an item in the agenda, and that would probably be easier. I don't think that doesn't change the motion. I was just kind of like asking, but since we're kind of springing this on staff, you good with this?
I think procedurally we can make either work, and I can work with the attorney to figure that out.
Sounds good.
I think the only other thing that I think was discussed last year that maybe was a point for consideration is July 3rd meeting. either canceling that. We ended up canceling that this year, or pushing it back a week for people who celebrate the 4th of July that week and may be out of town. I've seen quorum issues become a challenge as well. So
It is the third.
If we push it back, I cannot attend the second Thursday of the month because I have a prior commitment. So,
Didn't we just always, well, last year, didn't we just say we'll have a July and then in the June, we just said we don't need to have it? Can we do it like that? We just did not have it unless it's something really, okay. Okay.
Well, if we have it the week after, Tina, with you not being here, that's fine. We have a vice mayor, and Mark missed several meetings, so the vice mayor just ran the meeting.
I missed one meeting in 4 years of planning commission,
Mhm.
so that's not something that is the normality for me.
We don't have to have it on a Thursday, do we? If we push it the following week, we could do a Tuesday, a Wednesday. So, yeah, exactly. So Thursday's not, if you can make it on a Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll work that out. Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Council Member Davis, what say you? Mr. Voigt,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Mr. Stork. Oh, I'm sorry,
Aye.
Valerie.
Aye.
You're next
Aye.
to me. I'm looking in front of me.
Aye.
And Mr. Eggman.
Aye.
There are 7 ayes, no nays. Motion passes 7-0. There are no informational items. Is there anything else that,
Yeah, I'd like to bring something up.
go ahead.
We've talked about in the last couple of meetings about the lights being out on the streets. There is a lot of lights out on the
Mhm.
streets. Main Street, I think, has got 7 from the intersection all the way to north of town. I think I counted that the other morning when I was going out hunting. I know down on Dorsey Lane, my son lives down there. I think he says there's 3 lights on that street alone, which is just about all of them. So I think we need to have Justin, or his part-timer, if he's back from school. That's how it was done last time. Justin would go around at night, tag all the numbers of the poles, get it back to somebody in staff. They would then contact Virginia Power and get them out here and take care of it, because there's probably over 20 some parking lights out again. And regardless if they're working or not, we're paying for them. Every month we pay. If we have 100 lights in town, we're paying a fee every month for every light. So if we have to pay for them, we just want to make sure they're working, because it's not good practice for our money if we're paying for something that's not working, period. Just wanted to bring it up because we've talked about the last couple of meetings, but nothing's been done about it yet. So
Miss India, would you like to respond to that?
I think back when it was first addressed, I think I sent an email out after we followed up on staff, followed up on that a couple weeks after we had to get the point of contact with Dominion. But we will continue to dog that. The same with the guardrail issue. Mr. Bates did follow up with us on the guardrails. Basically, VDOT is prioritizing a few. But basically they'll get to them, and when they get to them is the response that we've gotten. And I know that that's probably not good enough for some folks, but we are trying. But working with other entities and other partners, sometimes we're at their
At their
peril.
mercy.
Yeah, at their mercy. So
did Mr. Bates say anything about the curb on that alleyway where it's broken up so bad it's a real bad trip hazard?
I don't recall,
Is
but
that-
Mr. Bates will be here later, so perhaps
okay.
we can follow up with him in person. So
Since the lights are not working, can we have our rate adjusted until it is? We shouldn't be charged for something that we're not receiving.
that's something I can follow up on.
Thank you.
And I will mention that Public Works and I did work on that immediate within the week. We did look at the maps and did reach back out to Dominion at that point. So that is in the works.
Very good. Anything else for the work session? Hearing none, I would like to request a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the work session.
I have a motion from Mr. Hageman to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second from Councilperson Voigt. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. The work session is adjourned at 6:27. Second, 2025. The time is 7 p.m. And I would like to officially call the regular meeting of the Town of Bowling Green Town Council to order. Would everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now take a roll call to determine if we have a quorum, which I already know we do. But Ms. Davis, Mr. Voigt,
Here.
Mr. Webb,
Here.
Mr. Chenault,
Here.
Ms. Coyle,
Here.
Mr. Stork,
Here.
and Mr. Hageman.
Here.
All council members are present and we have a quorum. The first four items on our agenda are the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion from,
I'll second it.
okay, in a second. Any discussion? Would those in favor raise your right hand, please? Passes. All council members have passed it. Okay. The next item on the agenda are member comments. Are there any member comments at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Welcome everybody that was brought into the group tonight. Dana is mayor, John Chenault winning his seat back, David Stork winning his seat back, Jeff White winning his seat back. Glad you're all here.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on. We need to elect a vice mayor. We will now proceed to the election of the vice mayor, and I would like to accept nominations from the floor for the position of vice mayor.
So I'd like to ask Ms. Coyle if she'll serve again.
Ms. Valerie,
Second.
is that something you are willing to do? Are there any other nominations? Okay. Raise your hand if you are in favor of Ms. Coyle being the vice mayor. You didn't vote for yourself, you abstained? No, you don't. That's why I was asking. So is it 6 or 7 in favor?
It's 7.
Okay, 7 in favor, unanimously passes. Next, we will move on
Thank you very much.
to public comment. Okay. We're going to move to public comment. If you have a comment, please come up to the podium, list your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Please know that our rules do not allow for us to respond to what you have to say, but what you have to say is very important to us, and we are listening and taking note. So we will now open public comment. This is like planning commission. Going once, going twice. We will now close public comment. Okay, we will move on to staff reports and presentations. We will now, let's see, Ms. Adams Jacobs and your team. I need the town manager's report first, please. Item number 5.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In close, you have the town council memo that outlines the report, my report for the month of December. Under finance and administration, the FY22 audit process is continuing. Their final site visit occurred on December 18th. We've been in contact with them this week. They have been out for the holiday season, but are getting back to work this week. So our hope is to have that completed and finalized for your presentation and consideration at the February meeting. Our software system conversion continues as well. We are moving forward with training and testing with hopes to have the first phase of that module up in early February. Capital improvement planning is underway with our individual departments. We also had a staff retreat in December to take a look at the work that we'll be taking on in 2025, which I'll give an update to council at your council retreat on the 17th. I continue to meet with Senator Stewart and Delegate Pugh Kent as it relates to our legislative agenda. Senator Stewart mentioned that he is going to put in a budget amendment on our behalf. Our IT transition has been completed. We are also working on some transition with our phones to improve our phone services in 2025 as well. I'm finalizing the website design this week, so thank you all for your feedback there, and we'll be moving forward with that with hopes of having the new website go live in February as well. And surplus vehicles that were approved in 2023 by council has been posted to GovDeals. I'd like to thank our Public Works team for getting that out there. Also working on updating a parking sign on Main Street, as well as the lights issue and the guardrail issues. So that will conclude my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
I do have a question. It said that you met with Senator Stewart and Delegate Pugh Kent regarding the town's legislative priorities, and you followed up with their request ahead of the upcoming General Assembly. What were their requests?
So in October and November, I gave an update to Town Council on the legislative agenda, which included improvements to our water system. They wanted specific information, which we provided from Stantec, on a legislative request to assist us with our water improvements, which we provided to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from council for a town manager? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the community development report. We will hear from Mr. Riviere.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Honorable Council. As for community development, prepared the Planning Commission agenda, the minutes, staff report, and provided staff support at the November Planning Commission meeting. as council is aware, council adopted the short-term rental and accessory dwelling unit ordinance back in November, and the ordinance and the form has now been created and published. It's now on the website with all of the regulations. Staff will be sending it out to the short-term rentals we know are already active, and continue to advertise that this is now a new business opportunity in the town of Bowling Green. Under partnerships, compliance, and grants, ongoing collaboration with the Department of Environmental Quality on our Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act local compliance program. This is a 5-year review. It happens every 5 years on a schedule. And we're working with the state and our partners at Caroline County who do some of our building processes to ensure that that review can be completed in an expeditious manner. Led the procurement process for the general engineering services RFP, which was awarded at the council special meeting. I'll leave the specifics there. Working with Caroline County also on the development of a town zoning map layer in their GIS system. That collaboration is still ongoing. Currently working with VDOT regarding potential modification to a town manhole on 301. VDOT's looking to add a new turn lane. That project is also just getting going. I worked with our intern, Mr. Smith, over there to develop a grant application and council documents for another Department of Health grant, which we'll talk about later tonight. And also with the town manager and Public Works, attended a cross-connection compliance program training in the Virginia Department of Health. And we're just notified that we'll be having an audit of that program as well. So another audit's on the way. And that's all for me. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions from council? Mr. LaRiviere. On the bottom of page 15, sir, it says the Virginia Public Procurement Act tabulated scoring sheets. Is that like leveling the bids?
So basically how the process works is after the committee's established, they have to individually rate them, not near each other, so you don't influence each other's thoughts. And you rank the proposal based on a scoring system that was in the RFP, and then it's tabulating those spreadsheets, bringing them all together, and coming up with the final score. I just wanted to give the specifics of the procurement process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would like to publicly thank Mr. Jeffrey Smith for all of his hard work working with the zoning and GIS. Okay.
I've got a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Your last item on the first part, as far as IGSA, implementing that, where are we in the timeline on that?
We were awaiting some information back from Fort Walker. They've given us that information, but we need to have a meeting with them. They were circling back after the holidays, so I'm waiting to get a date from them so that we can move forward with the next phases.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Item number 7, the Public Works Department monthly report for December.
That's included in your packet, but I will bring up Mr. Jamie to discuss the utility report on behalf of Envoted Environmental Services.
We're jumping down to number 10.
Correct. The other staff are not here to speak to their reports, so they're included for your review and
Thank you.
consideration.
Good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations, Mayor and Council, for the election. For the report this month, everything's pretty business as usual. One of the things that we were really going after was the grease in the lift stations and putting equipment in there to help that. There were some quotes received and they were ordered, I believe, at the end of November. So they are ready to be installed, and that they are coming up with plans right now to install them. The average flow at the wastewater plant was 0.086 MGD and a total monthly effluent discharge of 2.571 MGD or MG. The water system, obviously the Gross Alpha, have had some meetings over that with Moonshot Town and everybody involved in that. So that's moving forward. I believe it was well 5 actually came back under the gross alpha limit this last time. So that was interesting to see. So maybe that'll continue. We'll see. Outside of that, we got some bugs quoted for the lift stations to help with oxidizing grease. We've increased the frequency of the UV system cleaning. There was a couple elevated E. coli results. We jumped on that immediately. That's what actually sparked the increasing the UV cleaning. Knocked the samples all right back down to right down at the bottom of the graph where they belong. Outside of that, that's all I've really got. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
We have a lot of problems with the wipes. Is it every locality?
Everywhere.
And there's nothing that can be done about that or anything, huh?
Practically, no. It's. I mean, there's wastewater plants. You know, smaller ones spend hundreds of thousands. Bigger ones spend millions of dollars to remove them before they go through the influent plant. And the problem is they clog pumps. They mess with the biochemistry in the plant. There's so many things that they do, and people just think they're able to go down the drain because it says flushable, and they think that it's okay, and that's just how they're marketed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from council? The maintenance fee. Are there any other questions from council? Thank you, sir. You have a lovely evening.
You're welcome. You as well. You may leave this on.
The next item on our agenda is new business. Item number 11.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you have a resolution of support for your consideration tonight for the next phase in the VDH Department of Health grant that we're going to pursue. We were successful in obtaining a $45,000 grant for plating and design that was allocated for the hydrological source evaluation, which we're working on now. I'll pass it over to JC and Mr. Smith to give any specifics on this next grant that we're pursuing.
Thank you. So, as the town manager mentioned, this is the same grant program that we recently were awarded a grant for. It's $45,000 is the funding request once again, which is the maximum under this program. And there is no local match, so it's a very good deal. Basically, the goal of this project will be to create a GIS map of all public utility infrastructure. Currently, all we have are mostly what we have are paper records from a long time ago, and some recent field verifications. So what the goal of this project will do is, based on the old paper plans, it'll create a GIS map, and then when we will field verify it to make it as accurate as possible. And the goal will be to have the location of all of our infrastructure mapped, and then also a system by which our public works guys and our utility team within Bowdoin can go into, like on an iPad, and mark the condition of the pipes as they see them. So as they do projects in the field, they will be inputting data that will give the town a better idea of the location and condition of its infrastructure, which will then lead to the development of an asset management plan, so the town can actually start proactively replacing these. Because right now, with our current system, as you all are very well aware, all we can do is fix the breaks when they happen, because we don't have what we need to be proactive. Now this will enable that, and then we can go after grants and funding and take a phased approach and start really working on our infrastructure in a long-term, well-funded way. And I'm here to answer any questions. If you have them, the resolution is before you. Thank you.
So, so it's only going to cost $45,000 to do that?
The current estimate from our consultants is that should be enough.
That's a deal. I mean, I thought it'd been a lot more than that. And so do they look at, I get it, they look at drawings, but I mean, do they talk to people that have worked here before, like they worked for the county and verify?
That will be part of the field verification process, and that's another reason we're doing it is because Sean is the person on our staff who knows all this stuff. If he was to leave,
Yeah.
our institutional knowledge would be completely gone.
Yeah, and go back further than that, you got William Stanley at the county. And, I mean, he's a great resource too. That's great. It's a great deal, I think.
Any other questions?
I'm ready to make a motion if that's all right, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
All right. I move that council adopt the attached resolution of support for the town's grant application to the Virginia Department of Health Planning and Design Fund to obtain funding for the town of Bowling Green Public Utility GIS mapping project.
And I'll second that.
so I have a motion from Councilman Voigt. I have a second from Councilman Hagman. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we will take a vote and I will take a roll call. Ms. Davis? Yes. Mr. Voigt?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Chenault?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Stork?
Yes.
And Mr. Hagman?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to item number 12, the VDOT Smart Scale Project. We have action requested and we will hear from Mr. Kyle Bates.
Yes, thank you. We've got some new faces here, so congratulations, I guess, first and foremost on being back. I feel like I do this every time, so a few of you are tired of this, but my name is Kyle Bates. Hello, everyone. I'm the resident engineer for the Fredericksburg Residency, which is Stafford, Spotsylvania, and Caroline counties. Also, town of Bowling Green here, and also including the city of Fredericksburg. So I'm actually here with our project manager, Anna Capitan. So what we're here to do tonight is I've been here a few different times on a few different occasions to discuss the 301 Chase Street project, as we're calling it, which is a smart scale project. We're to the point now where we're moving through design. That's a good place to be. Things are moving, the ball is rolling. One of the things through any project is that we have to do almost immediately is survey. As we go through a new project, there's a lot of unknowns, and until you get that survey, a lot can be shown of some issues. Some things are for the positive. So we got the survey back. As we're going through design, we're going to do our best when the opportunity arises to have some back and forth with you all. We do the same thing with the locality. We want to make sure when we can that we involve you as a part of the project, right? You all are ultimately the end user along with the traveling public. So I can't tell you that we'll do that every single time, and I don't say that to be rude. I say that because at times we have to make what we'll call the best decision, the safest decision, and at times the most economical decision. There are times where we have to look at long-term maintenance of our routes, of our products, and we have to make sure that we can quickly and safely be able to replace things, maintain the road, things like that, and most importantly, keep the folks safe that are traveling out on the road. We do have one thing that's come up through survey that Anna's going to dive into and talk a little bit more. It has to do with a water line potentially being relocated and the need for maybe a retaining wall. It's actually just right out here where you have some of the wider area here on Courthouse. And I know in speaking with India, you all use that potentially for some things related to festivals and Christmas parades and things like that. So what we're here to do tonight is talk through that, kind of give some thoughts on our end. And again, we look at some of these items, and this is a good thing at times. We look at some of these items in a very black and white manner, right? But there's also you all are the ones that are here and know what the internal use for the town is, and we don't always see that. And again, that's kind of why we're here tonight, to feel you all out and get some feedback. Any decision has some kind of an impact to the budget, right? When we set budgets for projects, I believe this one, after we recalculated for some of the inflation after COVID, went up to just over $16 million. You know, that's a high level planning level estimate. That's before we get survey done, before we really get down into the weeds with what's going to have to be out there, right? As we go through any project, things come up. Sometimes we save money, sometimes we have to spend more money. That's just the nature of the beast with any VDOT project. So we got the survey back, and this is one small area that we did have a little bit of concern for, but not a huge price tag in the grand scheme of things. The reason we come to you tonight is while that one thing might not be a big deal, we still have a long ways to go in this project. And I can't sit here and tell you we won't hit other unforeseen items. Could be a year from now as we progress through design. There will be other things that pop up. I know there were some conversations about some of the aesthetics. Those are all things that are not included in that estimate. We're not included in the application. Things that we can talk about as we progress through design. It's another price tag that comes along with this. And so these are some of the hard decisions that as we go through the project, we're going to have to make. But so there's a lot of unknowns in this. And I realize what I'm coming up here to say in a nutshell is we have a cost implication to this project. We could potentially have more down the line. So it's a hard decision to make now, not knowing what we're going to find as we progress through design, as now that we have that survey. So Anna's going to take over here and talk a little bit about you know, what we have as in flexibility to the utility issue that we have out here, and then go over some other small little details of the projects. And we can take some questions related to the project at the end. You know, there's no better person to have here than Anna because she is the project manager as we move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her, and she's going to kind of go through some slides that you all have, and we'll go from there.
So I'm gonna start with an apology. I'm on day 3 of a migraine, so I'm a little shaky, and what's going on in my head doesn't come out my mouth as quickly as it should. So forgive me for that. I don't realize some of you guys would be new to maybe this project. So I have just a very quick project background on sheet 1 here. So the big hitters on this project are going to be the changes at Chase Street and Courthouse Lane where they intersect with 301. So those, as you know, the Nice Bridge, we have a new Nice Bridge, and it's expected that traffic's going to just increase on 301. So we're being proactive and doing some safety benefits there. The traffic pattern is going to be a little different than what you all are used to today. On Chase Street, if you're leaving town, you will no longer be able to go straight across. You're going to have to make a right, go down, make a U-turn at the next crossover, and then come back up to Chase Street and make your right. Courthouse Lane, it's going to be a right turn only. So you're going to have to come down to Chase Street to make your U-turn there. And then as an added benefit to those large safety improvements, we're going to do some pedestrian improvements in town. We're going to pave and stripe the commuter lot. On my sheet here, I tell you 25 spaces because that was what your application had. As we dug into the design, we're going to be able to give you guys 27 parking spaces there. We're improving ped crossings on Chase and Main. So we're going to add pedestrian signals. We're going to upgrade the late traffic signals in that location. And then the other real big hitter we have on the project is going to be adding sidewalk on Chase Street from the courthouse, courthouse lane apartments, I believe they're called. And we're gonna bring that all the way up to the commuter lot and then tie it in with the existing sidewalks that you already have in town. As Kyle mentioned, this little block here at where what is that, Butler Street and Courthouse Lane are, we're adding sidewalk there. So now you will have sidewalk clear from Main Street on Courthouse Lane all the way up to the fire station. One of the unforeseen things when the application was developed is just what is located here in the side yard. And I beg forgiveness because your handout did not match the memo I had sent for what we were going to talk about. So what you're looking at on this page is layout option 2. And layout option 2, up until last week, had been our most valid option. Well, this had been the option that had been submitted in the application. So with this option, we would have a 5-foot sidewalk with a 3-foot grass buffer to, keep the pedestrians away from the traffic lane. We would maintain the existing curb where it is now. And we found some conflicts there. One, the slope is rather steep, so it would require several feet of a retaining wall. Retaining walls are pretty expensive, so that had not really been planned for. And then as we did the survey, we found that there's an existing water line that the retaining wall would impact. So we would need to obtain right-of-way to be able to move the water line. We would have to add the retaining wall. See, that's my headache. I'm making sure I'm hitting all these points. And that's going to, what we figure that's going to be about a $240,000 change to what had been budgeted for the project at the get-go. So that's one option. Then the next one is we would bump the existing curb out into the road a little further. And we would have, we will avoid impacting that water line. This option, we would still need a retaining wall, but we would need maybe about a quarter of the length of a retaining wall than what the previous option showed. What happens here though is we're moving that curb line out into the road, and that will take up the parking that's available on the road now. And having served on councils myself, I know parking's a really big deal, and that's why we wanted to make sure that it was understood parking on the road would go away on this block. So that would come at about 150,000 over what had been estimated. And then our engineers dug a little deeper, and if we go to what we now have as option 3, what we would do here is provide a 6-foot sidewalk. We would lose the buffer, 3-foot buffer. That would take a design waiver. We talked to our L&D engineer at the district, and he's okay with that as long as we have a 6-foot sidewalk. So that gives an extra foot to make sure the pedestrians are safe from the travel lane. If we do this option, we not only won't impact that water line, we would need no retaining wall at all. So just because of going out into the roadway, it's going to be about 125,000 for that option. VDOT feels that option is probably in the town's best interest. You're still going to lose the parking space, but it's going to have the lowest potential of bringing this over budget. So that's what we wanted to present to you today. The next handout or the next page in your handout, it just shows that what we're presenting to you and what you would be losing those few parking spaces over what it would look like. So it would come out to be on the same alignment as the 100 block of Courthouse Lane. So where Main Street is right there at your courthouse, that's already bumping out a little bit. That's where we would be. So we would maintain that line coming down to this block. Now it would still recess in because we're not touching the 200 block. So you would have a little extra room and you can maintain your parking on that block. But this block would look just like the 100 block of Courthouse Lane. And then just for y'all's knowledge, I've got the current schedule that we're working with. One thing you may be interested in is that we're projecting to hold the public hearing, which will be the next time that we're here to present the project to you. So, so we're going to do a public hearing probably in this building, if we can work that out with y'all, and it would be sometime in the fall. So we're kind of fast tracking this a bit, which is always good because the faster we do it, the less expense we have to people charging to the project or thinking some extra work may need to be done. So, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Are there questions for us?
Miss Anna, you're the project manager.
Yes,
What
that's
is your
correct.
last name, please?
It's Capitan, Kapitan. No problem.
I've got several questions. Okay. First off, the easy ones. Yeah, yay for an extra 2 spaces at the commuter lot. How many of those are going to be disabled and/or large vehicle?
2 will be for handicap, and that's per code.
Okay. And that's that. Okay, then. Okay, fun part with Courthouse here. Okay, disclaimer, I live on Courthouse.
Okay.
So I walk it every day. Okay, so basically we're stuck with no matter what option we pick, it costs more.
It costs more than the initial, how do I say that?
The initial planning level estimate, and it really falls back to the utility and the right of way concern.
Yeah, for reference, do you happen to know what the original projection was for that section?
I would have to look that up.
All right.
But
it doesn't even, I don't even think it breaks it down to like section by section. It is when I say a high level planning estimate, I mean, they're looking at very high level. Like they're looking at potentially like square footage of project and what type of work is going on, but they're not going and breaking it down line item by line item. It's very high level.
Okay. So couple concerns, regardless of which option we go with. And that's, you probably haven't seen this, but over there, your example of where it's already jutting out over by the sheriff's office over there. Okay. That corner, they wash their vehicles like every day. Okay. There's always like runoff and soap going into the street there. Okay. Similarly, there is a runoff point about midway at this building that constantly goes out and flows into the street whenever there's like a large storm or a lot going on. And I don't know if a retaining wall would how that would impact it, but there is whenever there's like a big rain event, the overflow juts out into there. And if you're not aware of that, I just wanted to mention it. But more importantly, more direct, with this design change, was there by chance any input from the fire rescue on that? Like they have the large apparatus right there coming out there, turning down onto this constantly.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, across from them is the welding and mechanic shop, and they're doing towing, and there's often vehicles that, okay, maybe shouldn't be, but are jutting into the road there. It's quite the bottleneck, and I'm deeply concerned about losing any square footage in the road in that specific spot. It's kind of one of those if it were somewhere else kind of things. But it's a little bit scary for me I mean, they just got the new engine. They're getting bigger.
Yeah.
And I honestly would like to ping some of this off of them to see what they would feel. So that leads me to, obviously you want an answer tonight, but when do you need an answer?
So if we look back at the schedule, we need to close scoping by, March 20th. I'm in March of 2025, forgive me. So we need to close scoping. I know that doesn't mean much to you, but it takes us a good month once we have this figured out. So we were thinking we pretty much need to know by middle of this month to be able to keep with this schedule.
And to be transparent here, like we don't necessarily need an official vote from you all unless that's something you're looking to do. I mean, this is more for us to kind of hear these concerns from y'all so that we can make a decision with the best information that we got, which again, that comes from you all. So it's something, your point, Jeff, is very, very on point. We can have the conversation with Chief Loftus and see if that's something that he's concerned with. Alternatively, it's a very wide road. Typically, when you have wide roads in residential areas, people probably go a little faster than they would if it was a little bit more narrow. So it may be when you talk about traffic calming, I know Andy, you and I talked about this on the call a while back, like it's natural traffic calming. It could even slow traffic down going through that area. Just, if you're looking for a silver lining and taking
there's a lot of nuance there's I mean, like Travis comes up at the T there, and I see a lot of people that don't really stop because they don't, it's a hill, and so they just kind of cruise through. So there's a lot of different nuance, like you were saying earlier about it. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people would want the sidewalk, but there's
and
issues there.
it's important to remember though, because you currently have parking available now, and we're going to restrict it to not be able to park there. It's the footprint's
sort of,
the same,
right.
So but we can do, I don't even think we would have to run auto turn on that to know that the turn radius is going to work for large vehicles, because of the amount of space that we have for the travel lane. So it should be zero impacts for that.
And there's no impact on Butler for this?
Not on Butler, because Butler already has sidewalks. So we're just kind of we're like a dentist. We're taking care of that missing tooth in the front there. So, the firehouse is a logical place to then stop the sidewalk.
Yeah, one more, and this is kind of like a for the record one, because I'm pretty sure I know this answer, but saying, oh, that's too expensive, we don't want it at all. Okay, I think that's when you then have to, give your version of the answer to that. Like, we can't just say, don't do that part at all, save us some money.
Every single option has a sidewalk on it.
Right, and this is like, for the record, for people to know. If I were to say, well, I can't afford even $125,000, don't build that at all.
Oh,
I'm just saying, I want that answer on
Yeah.
the record. I know the.
Yeah, we so as Kyle noted, this is a smart scale project, and on that where I have the project background listed, these are items that have to be delivered within the budget and within the time frame. So because this was specifically requested and accepted, we have to provide it. I think the bigger question is, are you okay that you're going to lose those several parking spots there?
Parking spots and width. And if I can put it in just the most blunt way possible, it's, and think of this as if it is your money, right? Is it worth the $250,000 or so that she's got listed there to keep those parking spaces? Understanding you've got the parking lot over here, and I'm just thinking out loud, honestly, at this point. But is that something that is worth it? You run the risk later on with the project going over budget, and that could be one of the small things that does that, right? And so these are the hard decisions we have to make early on in projects, not knowing the long-term issues we could run into. Devil's advocate, we might get further down the line and everything is under what we have, but we don't know that. We don't know that.
How many spaces do you reckon that is?
That was my
Four
question.
tops, maybe 3.
Who even parks there?
Only during events. I don't see that
That's
normally.
exactly.
They
It's-
park there during election and when we rent town hall, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, so frankly, it's a moot point. I mean, it's a dead street.
Who requested it to have the sidewalk put there? Why do you need a sidewalk from the fire station right up here? To here on this thing?
Well, that was
Well,
the
nobody's
original
walking
application.
it.
Oh,
It
Jeff does.
connects then to Main Street,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but
You know,
nobody from
but,
the fire station's walking to Main Street. Nobody from Main Street's walking down to the fire station.
it's
Maybe
just
they would if they had a sidewalk.
and filling in gaps where sidewalk is missing in various places through town. So just to take advantage of the fact that there is a project here in town, can we go ahead and take care of some of these smaller little items? I don't know. I know it was Smart Scale 2022. So in 2022, this happened. I don't know how much before that discussions began and who would have been on the board at that point to help figure out what all was to be included.
Yeah, I guess it's a moot point right now. You have to build it, and I think it makes sense. And as you went through those iterations, I mean, I think that is the logical choice. That's my perspective. That's how I would deal with it as well, eliminating those spaces. And Jeff, kind of getting to your point, you're really not eliminating any travel width because you need to assume that typically a vehicle would be parked there. My only question is, we're talking about these cost increases. How does that impact the town? Let's just say, Kyle, let's just say everything,
You asked the
from
same question a couple of years ago. I
right,
think.
right, from the high level, everything runs on budget.
I'm gonna give
And
you.
now all of a sudden,
yeah.
we're $125,000 over.
I'm gonna give you the most
what-
gray answer I can, but it
okay.
hopefully will give you the answer. The black and white answer is that any overages the applicant is responsible for. Okay, but I'm also gonna follow that back up because we talked about this when we discussed 301 Chase Street. In my 11 years at VDOT, we have never gone to a locality and said, "Hey, pay this overage." We have that caveat in our application so that if you all cause a problem with the project, now I got you, right? So you wouldn't do that, right? And frankly, localities haven't. And so any overages, since I've been here, and I'm only speaking from my experience with the local VDOT projects in Fredericksburg, we have not gone to a locality and had to pay any overages for a project. So, but I ask you to look at it as if it were your money. That was kind of my point with that, because
Right.
in a world where VDOT comes to you at the end of this and says, hey, you're $250,000 over budget, fork it up, because you all wanted your super wide road, right? Again, I'm being super blunt. I apologize, but that's the world that I'm trying to look at it from. I'm not.
But I mean, it's your recommendation to go with option 3. That's what
Yes.
you're recommending, and after looking at everything, hearing everything, I'm in complete agreement, and that makes sense. And
3 is
The, where we have the waiver, the 6 foot,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
6
I
foot,
I think that makes
no buffer.
sense. Yeah.
Well, again, Indy, I'll ask you. We don't need an official vote necessarily. I think an email from you. Okay.
I'm not make- yeah, and just so the reason that
You've
this
done
came
a while. Yeah.
just so that this came here, we did have the discussion and they asked me my thoughts and I thought that we need to have the discussion. Similar to some of the points that Mr. Voigt made earlier, my concern with the narrower was the going back to the concerns from EMS, but also in addition, after being more intimately involved with the events, and now knowing that parts of those areas will be blocked off moving forward, dead end streets, that we'll have to find ways to reroute and route people during those events. And having been there, actually checking people in for Harvest Festival and those sorts of events, that area will be very, very tight if it's narrowed. So not so much in thinking about this in as much as losing 5 spots, but losing the width and the potential concerns to safety for those type of events as well as a consideration. And I think, is it actually a kind of a delta of 90? It's a $90,000 additional if they were to decide to keep it.
That would be about it.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure because
Well,
I think it said 250 was the additional, but it's really an additional 90. So that's, I think, should be part of council's concern and consideration as well. But
Will this require
Oh.
a change order?
Gotcha.
No.
No.
Okay.
And so, regardless of what we vote here tonight, it's still a conversation we can have with chief office. Make sure that it's not putting in public safety.
Is that with the firehouse? Yeah. Yeah, and they have been included previously when it was first being ironed out what was to go in the application, because obviously they had concern with no left turns on 301 from Courthouse Lane. So to satisfy that concern, it's going to be a mountable median, so emergency vehicles will still be able to access.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did that song.
No.
Ooh, really?
So the
Well, the emergency vehicles are going to have their own lights, and that's going to pretty much stop the traffic. And
On
the
301 in Hanover, at the firehouse there, they actually have a traffic light across 301
Yep.
to stop traffic
Um,
because it is dangerous.
We wouldn't want to do something like that on 301 necessarily, but that's directly in front of the firehouse where they pull out.
Yeah.
Like that would be like putting it on Courthouse. That's something that could happen. We have it elsewhere within the district. If you've been up near Route 1 at Thornburg, the fire station there, they did that.
they're having trouble
Sorry.
here.
They did that under permit. Same thing with the one in Hanover, I would suspect. You're talking about Eastern Hanover, like Mechanicsville out that way. Yep. It's likely that usually the fire station would pay for and put those up. It's not out of the question on Courthouse. We likely wouldn't do that on 301. But that being said, one of the things that we are doing with the project, that when we discussed it with the fire chief and they signed off on the mountable curb for the median there, we are going to look at taking out some of the trees for the sight distance. If you're coming, especially if you're coming from turning into town, looking right, coming into onto Courthouse, some of the trees in the median there, we were going to take out to kind of ease up that radius. And it might not be necessarily part of the project. That might actually be done sooner. I'm working with our arborist on that one.
So will you increase the deceleration lane when you go to turn? Because it's pretty short anyway. Will that be increased?
Remember that one?
The one on, at 301 in Courthouse, no. The one at 301 in Chase, we're increasing it by, I'm sorry. Again, it's like, I want to say 300 feet. It's going to be you have a 100-foot taper and a 100-foot turn lane. You're going to have a 200-foot turn lane with a 100-foot taper. So we're increasing it 100.
So does the parking lot on Chase Street, I see it's referenced as a commuter lot.
Yes.
Does that put any restrictions on us as far as we can load it up with cars during a festival, or we have to?
Oh,
why
absolutely.
Why is
It's-
it called a commuter lot? Is there going to be a van there sitting?
I think you got extra points in scoring calling it a commuter lot, but I'll let Kyle
Yeah.
speak to that.
The only thing with commuter lots, and this is only if it's posted, is like we would restrict a lot of commercial vehicles, which if I'm frank, you probably don't want a lot of commercial vehicles parking in there because that's how you get things being just stored. Then you're going to be
yeah.
calling us and saying, hey, this van won't leave the commuter lot. It's been there for 6 months. I say that because we struggle with it everywhere else. So we'll probably put some signage up that will restrict something like that.
But is it our enforcement, or do y'all own that lot?
We own it. It would be state police at that point.
So that land belongs to the town now. That land will now belong to VDOT?
Through this project, if it's a VDOT commuter lot, I'm asking the question.
No, I'm tracking this as town, being the towns, not VDOT's.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be something we need to iron out and be clear on. I'll
So if it's the towns, then the state police won't be in charge.
Probably not.
no.
Well, I mean, I don't care about it law enforcement wise. I just don't want to give up our control of our only parking lot is the main reason I was asking. But there has been in the past, if it's not still, a little commuter van that people will come there and like go to Dahlgren. They'll jump in a thing. So I don't know. That's a good answer. I just don't ever want it to lose the opportunity to have that lot for, if we want to have a music festival there. I want it to be our land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
call it whatever you want.
So
currently is the towns.
Okay.
But then I think it becomes slippery that is it VDOT's then to maintain or is it the towns to maintain?
Yeah, we'll look
So I
into
need to
that.
check that. Yeah.
It might be ideal if, I mean, look, I don't want to maintain it. I'd love for you all to maintain it, but you all might want me to maintain it, right? And so these are we can look at that. Anytime we built the Courthouse Road commuter lot, we own that property and we maintain that lot. I
That's
was
the
under
one
the
we own.
impression that's what this was, but because it's the town of Bowling Green and it's not a county, maybe that's going to be different. So Anna and I will follow up on that one.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Because
I will say if it is a VDOT commuter lot, it is for commuters and for people to park and for we don't want things being stored there. Like I said,
Mhm.
we do allow the whoever the locality is. If you all want to host events, you just have to get a permit through VDOT. We allow like at the farmers market in Spotsylvania and Stafford. But here's the thing, I'm not an event coordinator. Don't put me in a position where I have to pick and choose who can use the commuter lot on Saturday the 12th, right? Like that's not where we want to get into business with. We will push, if it is a VDOT lot, we push that back on you all. And it's whoever you want to allow to use it, you go right ahead. As long as it's a weekend and it's not like a weekday where it's packed. And frankly, if it's not being used during the week, we'll probably let that happen too. But we'll look into the ownership of it nonetheless.
Yeah.
You're still going with the sidewalk from that commuter lot all the way down to but it's going down to the new subdivision and then it's crossing over to go to.
Oh, I got you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's going to end at the apartments on Chase Street. and it, to help support the budget on the project, we are going to, go from the north side where the apartments are, and we're going to come down, I think it's called
Meadow Lane or something like, yes.
Meadow Lane. We're going to cross there. We're going to stripe in a crosswalk, and then we're going to continue the sidewalk on the south side of Chase Street into the commuter lot. There's going to be a crosswalk from the commuter lot over to the north side where Ennis Street is, if I said that correctly. Or you can just come out of the lot, turn right, and walk down to Main Street. And Main Street will actually have pedestrian push button signals that will be timed with the traffic lights. And you're getting new traffic signals and a new traffic pole in that location. We're going to go from 2 poles you have now with a wire across the road to 1 single pole with 2 arms that will cover everything. So it will look a little better.
And as we go through design on that, I'll just caveat it is very tight right of way wise right
is.
there. Obviously, a small pole with a span wire doesn't take up a lot of space, but once you put in one of our up to standard signal poles, it is very tight. So we're working through some challenges with that through design as well.
Very good. So, I know we need to take a vote on this, but I would, because you're here, I'd like to ask you a question unrelated to this.
It happens anywhere I go.
Several years ago, the town was repaved.
I was here. I did it.
Was that to include every road in the town?
Not every road, because some of them were there were some issues. If I recall, 7 years is a long time. If it was 7, feels like
It
was
shouldn't have been
5.
7. It
Yeah,
was
it feels
5.
a little more recent. But regardless, my memory. I believe there were some roads where maybe there were some utility projects that we were holding off because we didn't want to open cut them later. I don't recall, but if it's a state maintained road, most of them should have been done. If there are some that weren't, I can look into it and see why. First question I'd have to ask is, are they actually in the state system? So there's a lot of roads out there that might not be in the state system.
I live on Lakewood Road.
Okay.
And it's cuts down by the cemeteries and back to AP Hill.
Did
Or
you know if
excuse me,
it,
Fort Walker. Our road was never paved.
do you know, just working through this live, do you know if there's a route number associated with it?
I believe is it 608?
Okay. So that sounds like a really high number, or I should say a low number for that.
It's
But
the town road until the cemetery bridge, and then it becomes a county road after that.
okay. I can look at it. I'll see if there was a reason why. Regardless, it's not on a resurfacing schedule right now. Are there concerns with the condition of it?
We have had condition concerns
Yeah.
before. VDOT, you allegedly fixed it. The only reason that it has not washed out, my husband works in erosion control and stuff. We actually went out in front of our property and placed rocks a certain way so that
Sure.
it would divert the water flow going down that hill.
Okay.
Because it was washing the road out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crumbling all the way
Yeah,
across.
water will
And
definitely do that.
It was never,
Okay.
they kind of top dressed it a little bit, and
Yeah.
that
Is it Lakewood Drive?
Lakewood Road.
Road. Okay. Yeah, if it's got a route number associated with it, that means it's state. At least a portion of it is state maintained. So regardless, I'll look at it and I'll work through India and
I mean, it's definitely all state maintained
Okay.
road. I mean, it goes and ties back into 301 across from right, runs right along the base.
Okay.
Yeah, right across from the New Yorker.
Okay. I'm not picturing it.
It's
All right.
the barbecue place now. It's right next to Fort Walker's main entrance on 301.
Okay.
Anyhow,
Does the town maintain their own routes? Okay.
Not the state.
We only have one that we own. That's True Walla.
yes.
Okay.
And a commuter line.
And then commuter lot, yes. Yes.
Okay, is there any more discussion from council about these three options?
I have one more concern, but
Go ahead.
did you have something? I saw you reaching for your mic. Okay.
Mhm.
I have a concern about the vote. So your process that you're talking about, like if we were to not have a vote, you heard from us, you're going to kind of use some of your own judgment on that kind of thing, and then end up wherever you end up. So my question is, if we make a vote on any of these options, you would do that regardless?
No.
Okay. No, I'm going somewhere with it.
We're just
Right.
getting your preference.
Yeah.
But look, in reality, we want to hear. I wouldn't be here wasting time if we didn't actually care what y'all had to say. So.
Right,
Um,
because if you guys, and there's 7 board members, right?
Yes.
If just the people in this room had grave concern about losing the parking or that, it's going to bump out, imagine what would happen when the entire public is invited to view this. So if we're already feeling that this probably isn't a good idea, we would take that into consideration before, our next step.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely a concern of mine, obviously, but my concern as far as like voting is that being on the record like that, and then that if that were to lock you into anything, because as you said, like prices can go up, prices can go down, and we come later, if it wasn't going to cost us everything, I'd prefer not to lose the spaces. So if you were to come to that realization later that it could work, would you just go with us going with the cheapest still at that point? If we were on record having said do it.
We can absolutely pivot if we were get to the end of this project and it was a desire to hold on to those spaces and we have the funds to do it. We could absolutely
Because I'd rather not
pivot.
lose them, but I don't want to be spending all that money either.
Sure.
So
Yeah. And there is the unknown of the water line. We picked it up, but we didn't put eyes on it. So, how old is it? Is it asbestos? Because if it is an asbestos pipe, it just went up an extra 500,000 right there, and that's not chump change. So, there's still unknown even at this point. So if we had to touch that water line, and it did have asbestos associated with it, that raises the cost. If it is that old, if we touch this section, is something going to happen, 200 feet down at the next junction? So we really don't want to have to touch that water line. We will if we need to, but that could be a slippery slope because we just don't know what it is. Maybe it's abandoned. That could be true too. At this point, we don't know.
I just have a quick question I just thought about. So when you put the sidewalk up on the south side on Chase, where Meadows is, that empty field, right down there, there's a gully.
Yes.
Are you going to take the gully out? Or are you going to put the sidewalk on part of it?
We
Or
will have
over.
to redesign the drainage through there.
Okay.
That section, I want to say right now, we're looking at a closed system, which would be curb and gutter. And right now it's a drainage. It's
Right.
a fancy drainage ditch, and I could tell that was recently done. If you look at Google Maps, it's not even quite picking up what's there now. So yes, drainage is an important item on the project, and drainage is a very high cost too. Yes.
You, the curb and gutter,
Mhm.
which system do you tend to lean towards? CG2, CG6,
Or it's,
CG7?
CG6 is the standard code that we would follow. I'm not sure if we have areas where we would need to have CG7, but it's all done by code and it's based on where it is, what it's doing. So where we have the pedestrian ramps, where we're going to have push buttons, that's a CG something else that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's all governed by the Code of Virginia and our VDOT specifications.
Any other questions? Is this something that you want to vote on tonight? If it is, I need a motion.
One more, and I'm sorry for that. Okay, we're losing the spaces. You know, this it's not a satellite photo, so I can't picture it as well. Where it turns in, you know, towards the EMS there. So are we gonna lose 5-6 feet of that alleyway between this building and theirs also? Because that's tight already.
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Where-
Let me
where it-
pull up my.
You're talking about
The east turn.
Is it this section, this alley looking thing that goes into the parking lot?
Where?
this.
Thank you, Jason.
Yep. Is that this? That's it, right there? Oh, okay. You mean the width of the alleyway? No.
So that alley.
No,
won't be,
no,
okay.
and that entrance would remain whatever is if it's not up to code now, it would be widened to be up to code.
That's used for so much.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
both things that we do, but also all the fire guys. You know, everything goes through there. So okay, good, thank you.
Okay. And I'll write myself a note to check the opening. Okay.
So would anyone like to make a motion, or do you want to sit on this?
Madam Mayor, I think back to their point as it relates to the timeline that they've asked, perhaps if there's a desire not to have a vote, giving a consensus, some consensus versus of council versus a vote, if that is easier to maintain their timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I'm happy with option 3. I think that makes the most sense. I do not think it makes sense to get in and push closer to the building, retaining wall. I mean, we're not, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about travel ways. We're not decreasing that. The only thing we're doing is doing away with a few parking spaces. And personally, I think that makes sense. So I don't know if we want a motion to go, but I mean, that's my thought.
I agree with Dan.
Ditto.
Mr. Chenault? Mr. Roy? Ms. Davis? Mr. Stork?
So if we're just giving our consensus, I'm not for tying us down with a motion.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to pay for it anyway. You know, I don't want anything on the record saying we asked for another 125,000. So
I got you.
I think they got a consensus from us that we trust y'all judgment, y'all's money, and go to it. Our money, yes, our money.
Very good.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you, Mr.
And I
Bates.
hope to see all of you guys at the public hearing when we get that scheduled.
And thank you, Ms. Capitan. Oh, we are at the end of our business. I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Thank you so much. Town council meeting is closed and the time is 8:15.